afternoon. This is Michael Holt with Premier Power, the half hour with Premier Power, as I've been calling it. We are here to talk about electrical safety in respect to what we do. We have a couple of guests here today. Number one, we have my father, which is Mike Holt Sr., and he is a national electrical expert and guru. He's going to give us some good technical advice, insight. We have another guest with us, Sean. Sean, you want to say hi?
How you doing?
Sean is an employee with my father with the electrical industry, and we actually had no plan, and he's clueless of what's going on here. So,
what happened was, Michael, last week we had Belinda, and Belinda said she couldn't make it, and then we wanted to get a consumer on here because I know we sometimes get talking, and we talk at a technical level.
We're all over the place.
So I needed somebody who was clueless, and I was thinking, who could I possibly think of that's the most clueless person I know, Sean?
I'm definitely overqualified for that position.
And we really appreciate you coming in here, stepping in here. All right, Michael, we're going to talk about surge protection, and Sean, what I'm looking for you to do here is the consumer that's listening. You know, we don't want to say something and no matter what we do, we're going to get over their heads, but we might use jargon and say, what does that mean? How does that work out? What do you know? Have you heard about surge protection when you go to stores and, you know, what are newspapers, articles? What is your perception? What do you know about surge protection?
When you hear it, what do you say? What do you think?
Absolutely. Just because of us living here in Central Florida, I always think of the different types of surges and lightning strikes you can get. So I don't know if there's a differential between the two, but I do have surge protection throughout my house when it comes to plugs that go into outlets, and I try to protect everything that I have. Somehow with surge protection.
All right, so you have some, but you're not quite sure exactly what it means.
That's right.
But you just know, okay, something about lightning protection and surge. Michael, what is your experience? I know we talked earlier, and maybe we'll have some guests call in. By the way, if you can, my 790 AM, we'd really love to have you call us, ask us questions, and maybe tell us some stories about yourselves. The number is 352-787-9523. So take a moment, give us a call, ask a question, and tell us about your experience. So, Michael, I'm the technical expert. You're the guy who's practical in the field. So what have you seen yourselves?
Okay, surge protection. Actually, a situation came up today where we just left the project, and so we got to the property, and we did electrical work for the property, another scope of work. In the process, we did a whole house home inspection, and we checked out the breakers in the panel. And I go to press the breakers in the panel, and I test the AFCI breakers in the panel, and they weren't testing properly.
1 second, Sean. Anything he says you're not sure of, jump in there.
Here we go.
Okay.
So I get to the panel, I test the breakers as a normal safety check procedure, and they're not working. So what happens is the homeowner then starts...
1 second, you say test the breaker. How did you test this breaker in the panel?
AFCI breakers are arc fault circuit interrupters. They go for your bedrooms. They have a little test button on them.
Okay, so you went to the panel. There was a test button.
Yes.
And you say, I'll press the test button, see what happens.
I always test them. Every chance I can.
Part of your home safety inspection, whenever you do a job, you just, a little extra, you kind of check. Okay, go ahead.
Other than when we get hired to go do a home inspection, I do them while I'm there as a common courtesy for the customer, for the homeowner, as their safety, because I'm generally concerned about their property and then their person. So I test the AFCIs and they're not working. The homeowner then brings up to my attention and goes, Mike, now that we think about it, and I'm talking about surge protection, just getting their mind a little bit, familiar with it. And they bring up the story of 5 years ago, we had a surge, and we had a lightning surge, and it hit the house, and it damaged about over $2,000 worth of equipment. They went ahead, from that point on, they went through and trying to go after their insurance company, the power company, and then the general contractors who built the house, because the house back then was fairly new. They didn't know if they were under warranty or not. Come to find out, the electric utility company are such a huge entity. They're so big. It's so tough to get in there. And they couldn't penetrate through the company. It was just such a big organization. Same thing with the insurance company. They spent all this mental gymnastics. They racked up all this time to get through, and they couldn't get through. And they tried to go back to the builder, see if they could do anything with the builder, and they spent all this time. And I go, Lenny, how much time did you rack up doing this? I mean, what have you spent? He goes, I spent probably a couple of days. I'm like, my gosh, that's terrible. And so, and they said, you know what? We just said it's here, he say, she said, and we didn't have any good data to.
Did it get a lawyer?
Oh, the company, when they were working with the Progress Energy, they said, you might want to get an attorney if we can fall through with it. So they go, an attorney, more legal fees, more time, more money. You know what? Let's just forget about it. Let's just pay our stuff ourselves. So they out-of-pocketed over $2,000 to cover their equipment for surge damages.
What equipment had a problem?
Their oven burnt up. their microwave was destroyed, their refrigerator was destroyed, their garage door opening motor up in the garage was toasted, their irrigation system was toasted. When they were in the house, they were sitting inside the family room, and an outlet actually blew out some sparks and some fire, and they actually saw it. Sean, you have a question?
Yeah, those GFCI outlets that you mentioned, those are the ones found in the bathroom and the kitchens usually?
GFCIs are found in your bathrooms, and they're not only in the form of a receptacle, but they're also in a breaker, and they're located in your bathrooms, your kitchen, your garage, outdoors.
Now, for somebody that has like an older home, is that something you need to check for to see if you actually have those in your kitchen or in your bathroom? Is there a place where you can look for those?
Yes, yeah. No, older houses, yes, you definitely want to look around, and I'm sure you don't have them. But, back before the 1970s, they came out in the 1970s when they came out. So anything before the 1970s is when you probably wouldn't have them. And the GFI protection is required to protect people from...
Tell you what, I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
Because we covered that 2 weeks ago on week 2. And Sean, what you need to do is go to premierpowerinc.com, click on the radio link, and then on the radio link you'll see it'll say GFCI protection, and it covers all that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
You heard the first show, but you didn't hear the second show, and I don't want to cut you guys off, but want to go on there. But the important point that Michael's making, and let me just kind of, by the way, those that are listening on the radio show, if you really want some information, objective information, go to premierpowerinc.com. Click on important information, and then click on the link where it has surge protection called Consumer Oriented Guide on Surge Protection. There's about 4 different links there, and I printed out this one document right here, the Consumer Guide, and it really is great. I'm going to use that as a basis for some of the technical comments that I'm making, and so I'm going to pick up on what you said, Michael, about the damage. Looking at this this Consumer Guide that's on premierpowerinc.com under important information, here's what it says. It says there's a $500 million. This was done, I forgot, back in the early 1990s, this particular report, that there's about $500 million worth of damage reported by the insurance companies. Now, that doesn't mean that's how much damage was done, because, Michael, you have an example. The people don't always go to the insurance company because it isn't worth the hassle to try to prove. Because what happens is this, Sean. You have lightning damage, surge protection damages your equipment. You go and you say, I got a problem. So we do. You still got to get your TV working and you get your equipment working. So you go out and you buy new equipment. Well, once you buy new equipment, the insurance company's going to say, well, wait a minute now. We don't know that was the equipment that was in there. We don't know what the conditions was. You should have called us before you started removing equipment. Now that you've replaced things and you fixed things. So the insurance company, you have to really...
And you as a homeowner don't know what to say or what not to say.
You don't know that you did something that, we can't now cover you because you did this.
Good point.
Now, another thing was, Michael, and you mentioned this, and that is that the same report talks about that 50% of the damage, let me read it here. It says, the analysis detailed claims found that more than half of the loss was related to telephone electronic appliances. So more than 50%. People thinking about surge protection, about their power, not recognizing that it's your phone and your cable that is more likely to damage.
Now, also, surge protection also comes in three forms. You have your electrical power, you have your cable, and you have your TV. So all these wires systems are coming into your house, and lightning can travel on all those forms coming into your house. Another situation where we installed surge protection for a customer, he brought to my attention that when we installed the surge, about a month after we installed the device, he had lightning strike the house, and it damaged his...
Wait a second. Lightning probably didn't strike the house.
Okay.
Usually lightning...
If lightning strikes your house, it's toast. I mean, there's nothing to protect that.
Yeah, so more than, let me talk about this. The damage that's caused by lightning or the surges is generally not that lightning struck your house, because in that case it's on fire, you damage it, you got blowout stuff all over the place. Lightning just has to strike nearby a tree, in a yard somewhere, and it creates an explosive magnetic field. It's and you can go on the internet and read about lightning. Lightning it's current, so it creates a magnetic field. It's that explosive field that creates the energy to move electrons. Because see, electrons are moved by magnetism, and so you have lightning creating huge magnetism. So I'm sorry, son.
I actually have 2 close friends that have had that happen, and with both friends' scenarios, it was a lightning strike that struck a tree in their property that created all the damage within their home.
Right.
Well, because of the induced voltage, there's a magnetic field, and that field got into the house and damaged the equipment.
So you were saying about the
the customer's name is Rich, and Rich sent us an email. Do we have a caller coming in here?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
1 minute to go. Go ahead.
Okay, so we install the surge. He comes back to me and sends me an email about a month later and says, Mike, lightning struck near the house and the field damaged his house, and the equipment was damaged was his cable and his irrigation system. And I'm not sure if anything else was directly related to that, but he was convinced that when we installed the surge protection, that prevented severe future or potential hazards in his house with the bigger equipment like TVs and computers and that sort of thing.
You're talking about that. Let me just continue the report on page 2.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're doing great. On page 2 of this report, PremierPowerInc.com, go to important information, and maybe we'll take a break now. You can do that as well. So go to important information, go on to surge protection, and click on the very first link that talks about consumer-oriented guide to surge protection. Our number here is 352-787-9523, and when we get back, we'll talk more about this report.
I love that song. It really gets me going. I like to dance, so I'm so glad we had that little thing to introduce us. Welcome back to the show. This is Michael with Premier Power, the half hour with Premier Power. Dad, we were talking about some statistics and reports. You want to pick back up on that?
Yeah. Looking at this report here, it says a typical modern residence contains many electronic and multi-port appliances. And Sean, this is the key here, multi-port appliances. In order to identify the practice you need to do, these are the kind of systems that have a problem. Home entertainment centers, including cable TV, home offices, telephones, electronic kitchen appliances, including home security, intercom, satellite receivers, garage doors, laundry equipment. Generally, any system with a microelectronic plus exposure to power, and here's the key word, and signal wiring can be found in damaging claims. And what's happening is that you have power coming in, you have telephone coming in, you have cable coming in, you have satellite coming in, and all of these are separate from each other. And then you go into a home entertainment system or a computer system or something that has the telephone, the cable, the satellite, and power. And when you have this lightning event that takes place outside or hits a tree, it now energizes the earth, and then you have one system connected to the earth at one point, grounded, another system connected to the earth, another point, grounded. It creates all these different energy differences, and that energy difference ends up getting equalized somewhere, and it goes into the electronic equipment. You were going to say something at break time. You're saying about somebody with this.
That's right. I know a couple of different people that had this happen to their homes, and that's exactly the type of damage they had. Their televisions, their computer systems, everything that was set up that you would think of as an electronic that was plugged in at that time basically was destroyed. And they had to start fresh and do the claims through the insurance company.
I know a bunch of them, but I mean, the two that I talked about earlier are the most recent in my mind. But I mean, there's other situations where people have gone through the insurance company and they were in the $2,000, even $3,000 or $4,000 ranges, where the big fancy LED lighting systems were all toasted and all that sensitive stuff.
See, an incandescent light bulb, which are supposed to be phased out. These little resident. What I mean phased out, meaning that the government is saying, you're not going to be able to sell incandescent light bulbs in the next few years, so they're going to be phased out. Residential heaters, these little heaters you can buy, 1,500 watt, you plug in. Lightning isn't going to affect those. Surge's not going to affect that because they're strong, beefy systems. Strong.
Cool.
It's when you get into the electronics, these microchips that the separation between one point and the other. It's so fine that when you have this event take place, it creates. A friend of mine told me one time. He said it's like taking a 22 bullet and shooting it to electronic equipment. That electron normally travels through it, but it goes so fast, it can't make the turns, it can't make the adjustment, and then it just blows it out.
And so it's basically all the most expensive stuff in the house.
Well, Murphy's Law will tell you that the most expensive piece of equipment will sacrifice itself to protect the wiring of your home.
So your flat screen TV will protect your blow dryer.
Absolutely.
Now, so surges though, Dad, is that a super high inrush? Because you said
because lightning is so fast, it creates so much energy. It creates this pulse of energy, and it pushes it through. You got to realize this electronic equipment was designed to carry currents and voltages as it's designed, not to carry this magnetic pulse that creates so much energy. So now what do? How do you protect yourself? Sean, you have it all over the place, but that doesn't mean it's correct. Let me give you two things. There needs to be 3 levels of protection. And they're categorized A, B, and C. It's either A, B, and C or C, B, and A. I can't remember what it is. Okay, but let's just go with A, B, and C. A means at the electrical service.
Right.
So it's a Class A protection device. That means that's where the meter comes in. You have a Class A device. Now, what that's designed to do is to take a lot of energy and not blow up. But the energy that it has, there's voltage. It clamps the voltage, but the voltage is kind of high, and that voltage can still damage you. But at least it reduced the energy. Then you go to a Class B, and you can tell if you have it in your house. Go outside your meter. You should see a surge protection device there. If you don't have it there, then you're already starting with a problem. You probably don't have it at your house.
Yeah, I believe that my utility company offered
Bingo.
some sort of monthly fee to get
You know what?
one.
They
but
offer that for like $5 or $6 or $7 a month, but you're paying that for the rest of your life. You're better off having an electrical contractor called
absolutely.
Premier Power Inc. come in there and put a Class A at the service.
We've come in there before, and the customer actually had that power company come remove it,
Yep.
and we installed one, and then
In the long run, you're cheaper off having
Absolutely.
your own.
the power company actually sells it to
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Like they're the only ones that can offer this thing, and you're going to have to pay this
Well,
fee.
they'll
for-
say all of them, A, B, and C, and they'll come in there and they'll charge you so much a month. All right, that's A, at the service. B is you put it at the panel. How do you know if you have it at the panel or not? Go to your panel. Look around. I don't see it there. Then you do not have surge protection. It's either inside the panel on a breaker, and it's marked as surge protection, or it's adjacent to the panel. Do you have it at your panel?
I do not believe
Do
so.
you have it at your service?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
do you guys know what surge protection looks like?
Well, it doesn't matter.
I mean,
You can
okay,
look
so
at it.
you
It'll be a light on there. It'll be. It's not like.
Well, hold on. Some strip protectors, the old ones, don't have lights on them. So the ones, but we won't. That's another time. That's not a problem. We'll
Okay,
take
so
care
you
of that.
need surge protection at the service. You can go out there. You're going to see something that looks out of character from everybody else's. At the panel, it's going to be obvious. There'll be lights in there. Now, here's another thing. Even if you get surge protection, we'll finish it up in a second. But let's say you get surge protection, it only can take so many lightning events before it goes away, which means that they have lights on there to indicate that this is good system still operational. So surge protection needs to be on a home inspection. If it's not there, you need to add it in there. And if it is there, then in a home inspection, you need to look at the surge protection and make sure that it's functional.
Last week you did it at your house. We replaced the one that in your,
Oh, that's
when your
right.
barn was bad.
The one in my barn. Do you remember the surge protection that blew up at the Lake Emma lot? It was a big pile on the ground
They came a lot. They came a lot.
where the house is being built at my home.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, there's a big pile on the floor, a mile. Okay, that was Class B is at the panel. You don't have it at your service, you don't have the panel, so you're already in trouble. Now you go to Class, well, that's why you're here. Okay, now you go to Class C. That's where you put it at the using device. Now you got to be careful. If you have a home entertainment center, you need to get a surge protection that says cable in, cable out, satellite in, satellite out, telephone in, telephone out, and you want all that equipment to be connected to that single device. But since you put a Class C only, you got energy coming in from Class A, not stop. You got energy going to Class C, not stop. And now it's going right for your surge protection device and can't predict what's going to happen at that location. But 1 second. Remember, over 50% of the damage was caused by telephone and cable? You have to have surge protection on your telephone lines coming in your house. Do you have surge protection, sir, on your telephone lines?
On a couple in my house.
Really?
I don't know if it's a benefit or not, but I use the type battery backups like you would use on a computer
Right.
for my larger pieces of electronic equipment in the house, whereas other outlets, I just have those
Yeah, but what about
six-
your home TV system?
That's what I have on my home TV.
You have on
I
TV.
do run
Okay,
my
so then you
telephone
do, then
through
you
there.
do have provide some protection there. But what about your cable?
No.
I'm talking about at the service coming in. When you come in with your telephone, you need surge protection. When you come in with your cable, you need surge protection. So you got to realize it's a comprehensive system. Every system enters, and how does the surge protection work? What does it work? It's hard to explain this, Sean. This energy that comes in is just driving. Okay, it's driving in from all the different sources. And where do they make the interconnect together? Anytime telephone and cable, anytime it's cable, satellite, that's going to go. I mean, they're going to go there. What surge protection does is kind of like a water heater. They have like an overflow, and like if you have too much pressure in a water heater, it's a release valve. That's what a surge protection is. It takes the energy coming in and it kind of diverts it away from the equipment, and it takes it to another location. So at Class A at the service, the energy comes in, it clamps it down a little bit in voltage, but it takes the energy and it doesn't blow up. And then it goes to, and it keeps driving in, it gets you a panel, then you clamp it down a little bit more, but it's not as beefy at the panel as it would be at the service, and it brings the voltage down. And then by the time it gets to your equipment, you have your strip, telephone in, telephone out, cable in, cable out. Don't forget, you got to go back in the beginning at your telephone system, put surge protection at the beginning of the telephone system, and put surge protection at your cable system. And then lightning strikes outside, you know what? You can still wipe everything out. That's the
my
beauty
gosh.
of the whole system. In other words, But you have a choice here. You could do nothing. Michael, have you had problems here at your radio station
Gator
with
Mike, right?
damage?
We have surge protection, so luckily there hasn't been too many problems.
But have you had any damage at all because of surges, you think?
I'm not at liberty to discuss this. No,
No,
I'm just
no
kidding.
such thing. We never had a problem.
No kidding.
Okay, the key here is that in Florida, in Central Florida, where we're at,
Well,
you
we're
need
the
a
lightning-
comprehensive whole. We're the lightning capital of the United States.
Right.
You really need to have surge protection properly designed and the proper equipment. And so, grounding. Now, Sean, even if you did everything correctly, grounding is another point. I'm going to close this up. You got to make sure that all these systems are connected together electrically. That means your cable, your satellite, your telephone, and your electrical power are all connected together. Now, they call that grounding, but it really isn't grounding, it's bonding. So you got to make sure that you connect all these things together so that electrically they consider themselves to be at the same point. If you have, and this is very common, you got satellite brought in your house, almost everybody listening to this radio station here, probably almost everybody's having their satellite have a ground rod driven in the earth. And now you have your electrical service driven in the earth. And now guess what you have? No matter how much surge protection you have, you've damaged the equipment. All the systems must be bonded together.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Thanks for joining us. Sean, Dad, appreciate it. Again, this is Michael with Premier Power. If you guys have any questions or concerns further than we discovered, contact me. My phone number is 352-978-7015, or you can email me, michael@premierpowerinc.com. Thank you, and be safe.
And also go to premierpowerinc.com under important information and click on surge protection links.
Thank
God
you.
bless.